Welcome to Make Your Own Music for Lesson 2. Today I'd like to direct you back to the Foundations video for Lesson 2 because most of what we need in order to move forward to make your own music, I mentioned in those foundations, particularly when I was talking about the jam. So the jam is this way of taking little bits of rhythm and then applying it to different notes, almost like a cookie cutter goes forward. And what I spent time on in that video is I was playing beyond what was on the page. So for example, that's what's on the page, and you take that rhythm idea and you keep going. Now I'm going through the scale, right? And then it gets boring, right? You want to change it. And then sometimes that gets boring. You want it to change. And then you notice how the left hand, the left hand, if it's always the same, right? So one of the ways to develop your own music is to spend enough time repeating an idea until it becomes automatic and it's smooth, right? And then you learn how to make little changes. Oh, it's still smooth. Changes, still smooth, right? And you'll reach a place where, gosh, I could do this all day long. And then your fear of making up music it's gone forever, because you realize you can just put the notes out there. Now, making them sound good and turning them into a song, that's a little bit different. The echo game can really help you to do that, especially if you decide to write your music down, what you're making up. So what you do is you're maybe fooling around, whatever, and you say, oh, I like that. You play it, and then you write it down, okay? And that's your echo. So playing it was the first part. Writing it down is the echo. Play, write it down. Play, write it down. And you start to go back and forth. That's a very simple way of getting your ideas on paper so you can remember them. Another way is to just turn on the recorder, which is super easy to do now. I mean, you can record on your phone. There are all sorts of computer programs that let you do that. In some of the live lessons, we'll get into that a little bit. It's a little bit too complicated to throw on a video, but essentially you can throw on the recording and you can play in your song, and then you have it. You can have to dissect it and figure out what you did, but it can be there for you. Okay, make sense? All right. So here's the story. Expanding the jam is where you start to get more ideas and you start to get into the flow. What makes this part of the lesson a bit unique is we're going to take that ability to jam, and I suggest you focus mostly on the right hand. Hands together is a little tricky. We'll talk about it a little bit later here. Focus on being able to make up a melody, right? And you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, however fast or slow, doesn't matter, right? Once you can do that, you come over and you look, you look at the bottom two lines. That's where the chord chart is, the chord chart. And the chords, the harmony, which is up here, the C chord, and then this is a G chord, and the B is in the bass. All right. Well, I'm going to go over all of that. But basically what happens is now you're going to jam on top of something and it's a little bit more organized. Right? And in the beginning, you just want to be able to play with it. Anything. Right? It's fine. You just play with it, whatever. You maybe do that 2 or 3 times. Then you get to the next bit. And this is where you start to choose the notes carefully. And you choose them because they sound good. So, Mr. David, what sounds good and why? Well, let me show you. If we get out this thing, okay, so I'm looking at the second line that says harmony. In the right hand, those three notes, C, E, G, those make up what they call the C chord. So for a guitar player, they know that. It's a C chord, all right? Different on a guitar, but on the piano, there's your C chord. Now, here's the magic. When you're playing along, when you're making up your song, right, what you do is, in the beginning stage, you aim to make a melody note that fits really well with the chord change. When you make those match, some really cool things can happen. So to keep this real simple, let me show you. So I'm at the chord part, and I'm going to play a C chord in the left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I don't expect you to do this. There's the chord change. That's the third measure. So here's the chord, 4 beats, and then it changes. Now, parts that sound good with it are the notes of that chord. So, for example, if I play an E in the right hand and a C chord in the left hand, sounds pretty good. If I play an F, see how it doesn't go? Now, we'll get to lesson 5 and 6 where you're playing faster notes, and that's the magical place for a person who's making up their own music. Because when you're playing faster notes, even if the note doesn't fit perfectly, you're moving through it. And because you move through it and you don't stick on it, it doesn't stick out. So that means basically you can play whatever you want and it'll sound great. And there are styles of music that are literally built that way. And we'll spend some time talking about that as well. The blues, for example, you can literally play any blues note against a chord and it sounds fine because you took out all the the notes that don't fit. It's the wildest thing. You literally can't play a wrong note. It's kind of cool. In the beginning stages, because we're a little limited about how many notes we can play, we have to be a little careful. So what's the deal here, Mr. David? When you are going to go to a measure where the notes change the chord, you want to be able to land in such a way where you know it's going to work. All right, so let's keep this super simple. I know this is going to sound a little nutty because it's so simple, but if you can do this, you can pick up on how it sounds, right? So we have 2 measures of C in our chord chart, and then it goes to a G chord. So what we're going to do, we know that the note E sounds good. We're going to hang out for 8 beats on that note, and we're going to change to the D on the 3rd measure. See how it matches? So I can just play one note over and over and over again. Now I got to change it back because it's going back to C. So you learn to follow the chords in your ear. All right, here it comes. And now I finished on a C. So you're not worried about all the in-between stuff. You're just trying to get to the place where you can make a choice, a specific note happen when the chord changes. All right? Now let me show you a little fancier. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk up through the scale. So our scale, I'm just going to walk up and down the notes of the scale, and then when I come to the spot where the chord changes, I'm going to choose to play the D. No matter where I am, I'm going to scoot to the D because I want that to change and land there. And when you start to get a sense of how it sounds, it's not quite so bad. So we start. So I just jump to the D. And I hung out there. You see how I repeat? So a safe place to experiment is to walk up and down the notes of the scale. You want that to become automatic for you. Just go up and down the notes of the scale, and then your part of you is kind of getting ready for the chord when it changes, and you're going to decide ahead of time what note you're going to jump on. So you kind of play around, and then you realize once you get into the flow of things, there's more than one note that sounds good. Some people come to all of this just by doing it. They'll figure out how to choose the notes, and then they'll get little bits that they remember from the echo, right? And they just set it up, and then they use what they call riffs in jazz and blues. It's just this little bit, little melody bit that ends in a certain spot, and they get really good at just starting the bit so it lands with the chord change. I'm starting to talk like a jazzer. So that's the new, bit more challenging thing that you can work on if you want. If you want to just hang out with the right hand, just going up and down the scale notes and jamming with the accompaniment and not even thinking about any of this, that's fine. Once you're ready, you're going to start to make decisions about the new notes on the new measures. Make sense? Okay, so let me lay down an accompaniment for you. What I do is I play through the chord chart two times, so you can hear it, right? So you're not trying to play these notes, you're trying to make up a melody using the notes of this lesson. You're making up melodies based on the jam on top of a set chord chart. That's what you're doing, okay? 1, 2, ready, go. Second time. Okay? So making up your own music sometimes is easier if you actually imitate songs that you can already play. So check out the lesson videos. Playing by ear, perhaps, for many of you would be the place to go. And even the videos describing the songs, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, Go Tell Aunt Rhody, Oh, When the Saints Go Marching In. You can hear little bits that become ideas for your own song. And then you say, well, that's kind of cool. And then you just make changes and you make it your own. So you can go like from a blank piece of paper kind of in your head to creating something. And if you need ideas, check out the songs that are on this lesson, because they match all of the notes that I've been talking to you about today. Okay? Thank you so much.